This is Doug from the Darksliders podcast. Here's the news from the week of July 13th. Hope you guys enjoy.
Anyway, moving on to some news here. Sticking with developers kind of doing different things. So Deep Silver, who's the company who's behind all the Dead Island games, I know they've got a couple other bigger name franchises that I can't think of off the top of my head. But they dropped one of their developers, and I believe it's Yager, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I would say Yager. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that was what I was going to go with, but I don't know. But anyway, they have been working on Dead Island 2 for a couple years now, I feel like.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
two
sure
or three, I think.
Yeah, a decent amount of time, but they just dropped them this week and just were like, nope, they're gone. The only game that I'm super familiar with from them is Spec Ops: The Line, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Which is a really unique shooter that came out probably just before they started Dead Island 2. But a couple weird things with this. Dead Island 2 is still in development. It's not done yet. So this is a game in the middle of development. Their developer gets dropped. So they're no longer working on it, but Deep Silver still plans on putting out Dead Island 2 in some capacity at some point. And then kind of along with this, and maybe this led to something, because I don't think there's really a whole big statement as to why this all went down, but Dead Island 2 is actually delayed for quality concerns. I think it was about a year ago. Because I think it was already supposed to have come out, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be this spring, whatever that means.
Yeah. So, I don't know, and this is kind of, I don't feel like you read about this too much where, like, that kind of like, I mean, obviously a whole different level, but this would be like EA coming out and saying, like, oh yeah, we just decided to let BioWare go.
Yeah.
Obviously a much different
Yeah,
level,
no shit. Dude, this would be a much bigger story if BioWare was dropped by somebody. I think BioWare would have to drop themselves. No, BioWare works for EA, right?
Yeah, they do, yep.
Okay.
EA bought them out.
Yeah. Well, I think this news isn't totally surprising because you said Spec Ops: The Line is a unique shooter.
I loved Spec Ops: The Line.
Why do you like Spec Ops: The Line?
The story.
Okay, so the writer of that story left the company after Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh, well, that makes much more sense then.
Okay, yeah. So now you're left with so what do they have to fall back on? So how'd you like the gameplay of Spec Ops?
It was average.
Okay, so now you get a team who does they do average gameplay. That's being cruel, but they made a solid shooter. Let's say that they made a solid shooter. But now you're asking
they made a middle of the road shooter that was incredibly elevated because of its unique story.
Yes. So now you've removed that story and you've told them to make an open world zombie game. And I don't know what they were expecting. I mean, I just don't think the team was like prepared for that. Like they did a linear military shooter, and now you're asking them to do an open world, expansive zombie game with a fun tone.
And if you played Spec Ops: The Line, the last thing that game had was a fun tone.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is like I think this is more a problem on Deep. This is I think they're both at fault. I think Deep Silver should have realized that this team isn't really prepared to do this sort of game, and then Yager should have been we're probably not the team that should be doing this game.
Yeah, and I'm sure from like Yager's standpoint, coming from a game like Spec Ops: The Line, that was kind of like a smaller game, Yeah, there's a Spec Ops kind of franchise, more so to speak, but I think if somebody put that in front of him and was like, okay, you get to do the next Dead Island, which 3 or 4 years ago was huge. I mean, it would have been a huge thing. I don't think they could have turned that down, but I do think Deep Silver, needed to do a little bit more thought before they kind of set this up for them.
Yeah, exactly. I think another big issue too is what was that? Dying Light came out, which was actually by the Dead Island devs, and well, I haven't played it, but I've heard that like people who like Dead Island really like Dying Light because it was basically Dead Island 2.
And one point with that is Deep Silver had previously dropped, I believe that was Techland, right?
Yeah.
They previously dropped them, so Deep Silver had no connection with Dying Light, which was made by the guys who did Dead Island 1.
Yeah, so basically like another company did Dead Island 2, but better.
Yeah.
And and that team was stuck with they didn't have any. I'm sure they got like some design documents in them, but they're like, make Dead Island 2. By the way, the guys who worked on Dead Island 1, you'll have no contact with.
And they will be directly competing against you.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck.
And Dying Light came out like 6 months ago now, which would have been right around the time frame that this game was originally supposed to be released.
Yeah. Well, no. This game was supposed to come out in spring. This game was supposed to come out like 2 or 3 months ago, but like it was supposed to come out after Dying Light, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, same window more or less.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel
It's
like
like,
that
by the way,
whole
that team also has a much bigger budget than you'll ever have.
yeah. I don't know. I just feel like the whole Dead Island series as a whole has just always been this like weird up and down, like who knows what the hell is going on with this franchise.
It just felt like a very, this is, I know you don't like numbers, but a very seven, like C plus sort of
Yeah,
game series
yeah. Because I
where,
mean, like the
yeah.
first one got so much crap for just like it's very like overly emotional trailer that you know what I mean. That started
Mm,
out like that was why that game was so hyped was because of the original trailer.
hmm
And then the game didn't really reflect that tone. And
At
then you
all,
had
from what I understand.
yeah, and then you had Dead Island Riptide, which I think was a fairly decent like kind of expansion pack esque 1.5 release.
hmm
And then you have whatever the hell Escape Dead Island was that came out last year.
Yeah, and then they also did a MOBA as well.
Yeah, and then you've got Dead Island 2 now, like 4 games later. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
this whole franchise just seems like nobody really knows what to do with this thing.
yeah, and I think Dying Light. I think I did this game's not going to be as good as Dying Light. I don't think Dying Light was like amazing. Like people who play Dying Light, like yeah, it's pretty good. It has a lot of problems though. But
Yeah,
I feel like this game is gonna be like it's not very good and has a lot of problems. Like,
yeah. But
yeah,
I'm just curious to see what ends up happening with Dead Island 2 now, because I mean, who knows where they were in development with it, and I mean, who knows who's taking over it, and you know, then you've got to go with the whole thing of does this new team have the same vision as the old team? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
And they just
I
got a
mean, this
bunch of
probably pushes
assets
that
sitting
game
around
out.
too. Like, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
what are you saying?
yeah. I mean, this probably pushes this game out at least another year or two. So who knows when this is even going to come out at this point?
Yeah, and they're willing to put in like another few $1 million. Like they've already got $1 million worth of assets sitting there, and like how many of those can they actually take over to the next team? Like, who knows? Like that's
Yeah,
not like without somebody translating for them.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a gigantic mess right now.
Yeah, it's. I think it was kind of like on everybody's fault. I don't think Silver is the bad guy, and I don't think Yager is the bad guy. I think it's just probably just a really bad business decision.
Yeah. Somebody put up a contract and somebody said yes without thinking things through.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
So kind of another game that's in development that a lot of people are pumped for is Shenmue 3, or in development might be too early of a term. I don't really know where that's at, but that Kickstarter wrapped up just a day or two ago at $6.3 million,
Yeah.
making it the most funded video game project ever on Kickstarter, just passing Bloodstained, which was just finished up like 2 weeks ago. So
hmm
I think between those two games, it kind of shows this new, almost like really powerful funding source for some of these developers. And I don't really know what 6.3 million is going to look like for Shenmue 3, or if they're getting money from somewhere else. And we kind
Oh,
of talked about
if
this
no,
before.
they are.
Yeah,
Like this budget is like this $6 million is probably like I think Sony already. I think they already said like Sony's probably putting up at least 50 million.
yeah. I think I know they're a lot more than this.
Yeah, but I also I'm trying not to. I'm trying to dance around it because I know you're going to get crazy about it, and we don't know a whole lot about it. But to me, I can understand why people are like, well, why do we have to fund this if Sony's funding it?
Yeah,
And I can understand that, but at the same time, I think that the people who put the $6.3 million, I think many because these are hardcore fans, many of them are aware that yes, Sony is probably doing that, but it's worth it for me to buy these trinkets and whatever that come with $100 or $200. Like, oh, I get a signed thing from the guy who made Shenmue 3. Okay, that's kind of cool. That's worth to me $200. Or I get a Steelbook edition. Okay, that's worth $100 to me. I don't think I think people are at this point anyway are well aware that this is only a very small percentage of the budget. I can see you cringing. I know you're just ready to get mad.
So, okay, so here's my thing. Yes, I agree with that. But at this point, it's come out basically, and one of the stretch goals was at 10 million, this game can be a truly open world game.
That is crazy. That is really strange.
Now, if follow me here. Now, if Sony's funding most of this, and you're like, oh yeah, they're putting up 40 million, just I don't even know what to say with this. But anyway, but like, if they're putting up the 40 million and it's 6.3 million, that leaves us at 3.7 million unaccounted for, and that's going to be like, oh, sorry, no open world game. And just this whole idea of Sony funding this and them going like, oh, but we got to get to 10 million and then we'll get the actual game. Just it's so beyond belief to me.
I wish, honestly, I think a lot of Kickstarters are doing this. I wish they're just more transparent about it. They're like, you know what? If you get to 10 million, that'll show that there's enough interest in this game that Sony will put up 100 million for it.
See, and I agree with that. And if it said that on there, 10 million stretch goal shows Sony enough interest to do this, that's fine with me, but saying like if you guys don't give us the 10 million and the 10 million will make this an open world game.
Yeah. Well,
Because nobody's saying the 10 million plus Sony's cut. It's 10
yeah.
million gets you an open world game. It's
But
not.
it does get. But I understand at the same time, like as cool as that would be. I mean, you can't say that. Like Sony's not going to say, yeah, we'll put up 100 million. It's like we'll see. Like we'll talk about it. Like there's lawyers involved. Like there's a lot of paperwork involved.
And I agree with that, but again, it's just it's one of those things where it's too shady for me to like sit here and go, and you're coercing people and going, give us more money, and then you can have this because then we know they'll do it. I mean, there's still a chance that like, so if they got to $9.9 million, Sony's gonna be like, oh, sorry guys, you didn't hit the 10, no open world for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm sure if they got like I'm sure that because they got 6 million, I'm sure they're gonna get like the 8 million or 10 or $9 million, whatever the other stretch goals were. But yeah, I think it would make more sense for them to be transparent. I don't think they're actually being nefarious. I just don't think they can say like you can say in a meeting to Sony like, hey, Sony, we're Sony, we'll give you X million dollars if you make this amount of money because that shows there's enough interest. But it's something that's said in a meeting. It's not something you can just tell everybody. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly with that. But the fact that it just seems like you're trying to steal money from people.
No,
you know
it
what
doesn't.
I mean?
No, because
yes, it does. Because if you're sitting there at $9 million and you go, guys, we have 5 days, 1 million, 10 million gets you the open world. When like really like 9 million is probably close enough for Sony to put up their money anyway.
Yeah,
that's where I'm getting like this whole like, because then you've got somebody who's like, well, I put up $100 already to get like the signed box. I guess I'll just put up another 20. You know what I mean? Because then you're going to get people who are thinking that way, and you're getting people who already have given you money to give you more money for something they might already get.
I mean that is the idea, but at the same time, like whenever they go, I would say that would be more nefarious if they weren't getting anything because they were increasing their funds, but they do get more prizes or whatever with that stuff. So like at that point, you could see it as just like an additional purchase. Like okay, well, I don't know if this one has like a lot of them have vinyl soundtracks.
Yep.
So to somebody, it's like, well, would I put up $20 extra if they were just asking for $20? No, but $20 extra and I get a vinyl, record now. Well, maybe now I'll do it. I think if they were just saying give us extra money and you get nothing in return, then yeah, that'd probably be a bad idea. I kind of wish they would just eventually set this up as like you're an investor and you get X percentage or something like that. Like that would make more sense. But
I'd be curious to see if it ever gets to that point because that's something that I could see as just being like having it essentially be like stock in a property. Like you're putting $20 in, which gets you a this percent cut. So every game that's released, you'll get 0.002 cents. We sell X number of copies. You know what I mean? Like that almost makes sense to me. But again, I don't know. Just this is my issue with Kickstarters in general, with like things that have support from major things and whatever example you want to use. If it's not truly like a 2-man team, just to me, like that's not what Kickstarter's for. And that was not the original intention of it. No, I know that's what it's turning into. But if like Sony put this up on Sony.com and was like, hey, we're going to crowdfund this. If you guys show enough interest in this, 5 million, we'll put up the money for the rest of the game to be developed. You hit 10 million, we'll put up the money for him to be able to have the opportunity to do an open world.
I think people would absolutely be willing to do that if they had cool pre-order bonuses stuff. Like here, if you put up, say, they're not going to need a fund Uncharted 5. Let's say Uncharted 5, we need funding for it. The example. But not a good example. Let's say Medieval 2 or something like that.
Yeah, okay, sure.
But you give like $5,000 and you get like a shield from Medieval.
Yeah. Like, totally. I'm totally. Again, you're missing my point here. I am fine with every single thing about how this is run. I just want it on Sony's own private thing where Sony can be transparent and say, yes, 5 million is not going to make Shenmue 3. 5 million is going to allow us to give Yu Suzuki, right, is his name?
Yeah.
Is going to give us the chance to give Yu Suzuki 40 million. We'll be able to justify our 40 million by your 5 million. Almost like charities do the like, oh yeah, we'll match up to this much. Just be transparent. That's all I want.
I think it's hard for people to understand how much games cost, though. I don't think people quite understand like a DLC costume in Batman actually costs $30,000 to make.
Yeah, and it totally does. And again, my issue isn't with the amount; it's with the transparency. That is my biggest issue with this.
I think Although I will say I know you don't like it, but I actually do like that these people are getting funding from Sony, and like I'm sure that Bloodstained one is also getting a lot of
Oh yeah,
funding
they're
from
getting
someone
funding from
else.
somewhere.
I like it though because it actually guarantees they're actually now beholden to somebody to finish the product.
Yeah, as opposed to just these random people. And I agree with that. I just want that company to straight up say, 5 million gets you Shenmue 3, 10 million gets you open world Shenmue 3 with our support as well.
I'll give you that. You could do something like even like okay, let's say you had like different pre-orders. Like okay, let's say pre-orders get you this amount. So you have like tier 1 pre-orders are worth 1 point, tier 2 pre-orders are worth
Exactly.
2 points,
I love it.
etc.
Yes.
It's like, and now when you get to 100 points, we'll make you, once everybody gets to 1,000 or 1,000,000 points, then we'll fund it or something like that.
Exactly. And that's what I want. I just want that company's logo on the page so people understand what they're paying for.
That's a good. All right. I can't disagree with that.
I win argument. All right. So before I lose argument, let's move on to our next news thing here.
You lose an argument. That's good. You make an argument. I agree with you.
So our next thing here, I'm super pumped about this. This is one of my all-time favorite video game franchises, and I love almost every entry into this series. And yeah, I'm talking about NHL 16, so now you can all stop listening. But anyway, they put up kind of their first gameplay reveal for some of the improvements with this. So at E3, they came out and said a bunch of that they were adding all the features back in that they took out for NHL 15, but I'm just excited about NHL 16. So they kind of talked about a couple things, and I know Doug doesn't play this at all.
I don't know anything about this.
I'm excited, so I want to talk about it.
My only question, though, is whatever you're about to say, does it get back to NHL 2013 levels of content?
They already announced that.
Oh, they did. So they're doing it.
That was their E3 thing. Was we're putting the content back in.
Oh.
This is their yearly gameplay tweaks.
Mm.
So like this is essentially like rebalancing a fighting game, where it's like if you're really paying attention, you'll notice it.
Yeah.
But it's not like a on the box, the on the box thing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. This is like the hardcore tweaks that you would care about, and maybe Brian, who was on our last podcast, would care about.
Yeah, exactly. For people who play this, it's not going to be like a huge selling point. But anyway, they kind of announced some changes with skating this year, and every year these games normally tend to have kind of like a focus. Like I think last year was fighting and physics engines were kind of the big thing that they tried to push. But this year they announced that they really worked on the skating. So what they added is like a strafe, so like a sidestep. So in previous games, like if you were going to turn, you always skated, kind of more or less in a straight line. This adds like a strafe, so you could kind of like walk on your skates. I don't know if have you ever ice skated before?
I have ice skated before. I do things besides play video games. We just have a video game podcast. Doesn't mean I'm not an interesting person outside of this.
There are people who haven't ice skated, but you know how you can kind of walk on your skates, and obviously if you're really good, you can kind of sidestep and things.
Yeah.
They basically added in a strafing element so that you can kind of be a little bit more specific with your positioning when you're playing defense, like lining things up.
Is it something like Ratchet and Clank where I mean, that means they'd have to like completely change the controls, I imagine. Do you now hold a button in order to do that strafe? So like hold down R2 to strafe left instead of going left, you know what I mean?
My guess is yes. They've always had like a button where you can kind of like specifically control things more. Like when you're on defense, it flips you around so you're back skating and things like that. So my assumption would be just while you're holding that button. Because before you would back skate and you would either glide left or right.
Yeah.
So my guess is now there's just like another button you can hold down to go left or right. But
okay. Is this a big change? Is this something that you've wanted or no?
With these, it's never something that you want. It's more of something that you're like, oh, that's cool. It just makes it like another thing that you would see people actually do that you can now do in the game. If that makes sense. Like there's an element of like watching a hockey game going like, I can do that in this. I can do that. Oh, I still can't quite make that specific move in the game.
Oh, okay. So does this potentially, if you're saying they're adding back all this extra stuff, plus they're doing these small little tweaks, like is this going to be like the best NHL game ever in your, like, are you really, really excited for this?
I'm really, really excited for everyone.
But we actually did talk a little about NHL 15, and you were kind of like, this game is good, but it has like nothing in it, and I don't like it, and da 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 da.
Well, for NHL 16, I can safely say if they just said we added all the features back in, I would buy that because NHL 15 did have a solid gameplay thing, but it's just little tweaks to make things just run more smooth and just to change things up. And every time it changes how the game plays. A few years ago, they added like I think they called it like a hustle button where your player could like for a while would skate faster, like if you really needed to get back on defense.
Oh, okay.
It's just changing things like that. Like one year they added, a new deke system where you had more control of the puck. 2 years ago, they added a boarding thing where you could actually hold people up on the boards like you'd see in hockey, whereas before you either
are
just
these
ran
all
into
added together? Because I know when you talk about Madden, sometimes they'll put a new feature and then take it out. But have these all been like pretty consistent, like adding on, or they do stuff, they pull it out, like, okay, that didn't really work, we'll do something.
I think they kind of reevaluate every year, because even Madden, there's only one or two things I can pick out that have like completely disappeared. It's more just like adding on, and it's every year adding an extra element of that. This is what you would actually have the ability to do if you were playing this game.
Yeah, this is one of those things I feel like people don't really appreciate with sports games. Even I don't like sports games. I don't really watch a lot of sports. But when I think about it, like these games, like they'll still get an 8 out of 10 or whatever, but it could still be the best NHL like ever made.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's still going to be, it's like, oh, well, it's not the same as last year. But it's like an evolutionary thing. I think that is kind of interesting that like NHL 2015 is probably, in theory, much, much better than 2010.
Yes, and if you go back and you play these, I mean, even year to year, I struggle, and I've tried it a few times just out of curiosity, I struggle to go back even a year with some of these changes. Now, not all of them are game-changing, but there have been years where like I've been like playing one, and then I'll go hang out with somebody like, oh yeah, let's play NHL, and they'll be like, oh, I just got last year's, like, okay, whatever, we'll play that, and I'll just like instantly be like fumbling with the controls, he'll be like, oh crap, I can't do this now, okay, how did I do that before?
Is it worse or is it different when you go back?
It feels worse just because, again, it's adding that extra element of control most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I mean, before they added in the boarding system, it was just you knock somebody into the boards, and then your player keeps going. Now, if I hold a button, I have the ability to either knock them down or pin them up there and try and get the puck away from them.
Oh, okay.
So it's just adding just different layers to it.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. It's not something I'm totally interested in, but I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, to me, it's like fighting games. Like, I like fighting games too, and like, the super hardcore people can tell you the difference between Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Alpha, you know what I mean?
Turbo and whatever, yeah.
There are people who can sit there and point those out, and then there's people who just can sit there and go, it's Street Fighter again. Why the hell is there a fourth Street Fighter 2?
Yeah, and they seem like massive changes to the hardcore audience, but to like most people who probably review these games, like, it's the same game I played last time, but they just don't feel that different. So
exactly, it feels it just looks like, oh yeah, I think they changed the menu system.
But
when you're actually playing, yeah. All right, but anyway, that was my. I need to talk about sports games because sports games are amazing.
I always find this stuff interesting because I know nothing about it.
And I think you say that line after every time we talk about sports games.
Well, because I do.
And have you played a sports game since then?
Hell no. I played Rocket League, which we determined was a sports game.
All right, so last couple of news items here. I think these are a little bit quicker. Prototype had a very sneaky stealth HD re-release on Xbox One and PS4 this past week.
Oh god, you sound like one of those YouTube personalities. Like, excuse me, developer of Prototype, this is not acceptable. No, but it's not acceptable.
I just mean in terms of like they didn't say anything, and like I think it was a good day or two where people were like, is this an HD remaster? Is this just the same game? Is this the PC version? What is this? Because they literally said nothing about this, and it just showed up, and I think like every news story I saw was Prototypes on the Xbox One store right now. Not sure what that's about.
Yeah, I think this is like, I think we're just not used to it anymore, but this is just like shovelware. Like, we're just not used to shovelware anymore. It's not like, shovelware kind of disappeared when budgets got like way too expensive to make cheap, crappy games.
Yeah.
So I think this is just, oh crap, we had this license sitting around. Prototype 2 didn't make a lot of money. Prototype 1 was kind of a fluke because people really like that one. But
if we just throw them up here, we can probably make an extra few thousand, maybe, extra 100,000 or 200,000, and call it good.
I kind of hope that they're not like, that they're like, maybe this will get Prototype 3. I really hope this is not trying to figure out interest in Prototype 3. Or maybe I am, and we'll just never see a Prototype 3 because I don't think anybody's really interested in this. I feel like people are getting like tricked into buying this. And
that's almost what it seems like. And I feel like that's probably why there was no announcement, because they probably got a lot of sales just out of like, oh shit, did they remaster this? From there's a good audience for at least Prototype 1 that really liked that game.
Yeah.
And the idea of an HD re-release for some people for certain games just is huge. So I'm sure they got some money from this, but I don't know. The whole thing seems kind of sneaky and like, I don't know.
It seems like a business decision. I like Destructoid's title. Prototype ports run like shit and aren't remastered. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it was. It was like, because at this point, if you see a game on a next-gen console, you're assuming at least a remaster. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
For
I
the
would
most
expect at
part.
least like a FPS bump and like 1080p.
Yeah, and this really I don't even think got those.
Like,
Like I think it still runs at like 20 frames per second on the Xbox One and PS4. I
oh
think.
yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. Facebook page where he's asked if the bundle is upscaled or rendered at. Upscaled just means like it actually runs at 720, but it'll output to your TV at 1080, so it'll be a little bit blurry when they blow up the picture.
Yeah.
And he just said, and that's what he said. It's or is it rendered 1080p where it's like actually has like that many pixels to begin with, and so you get a clearer image. And that's when he says the 1080p boost. Like that is
Yeah.
hilarious. I didn't get because you told me about that before. I was like, I don't get what you're talking about. Now that I'm reading, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. It seems like the whole thing just seems really sketchy. Like we didn't really want to do this, but corporate made us do this.
Yeah. I think somebody's just trying to make a quick buck on a kind of a failed franchise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think many people are going to go out there and buy this anyway. Actually, I think another pretty shitty port was Saints Row 4. Actually, Saints Row 4, when I was playing at least, had a lot of glitches, and I understand that the game is set in a glitchy universe, but there were some weird glitches when I was playing it.
Yeah,
like
there are a few, but I
like
don't know.
I had it like constantly like textures wouldn't line up and like they like float around or like cinematics wouldn't work quite right. I was like, that was
I
kind
did
of
I did
shitty.
have the cinematic problem on several parts in that game.
Okay, you did? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. I don't like these kind of half-ass ports. But Saints Row gets away with it because like, well, it's a half-ass port, but we'll give you all the DLC and we'll give you a bunch of extras. Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
You made up for it.
Yeah.
So the last thing, and this is actually I'm really excited about, they announced a Never Alone DLC pack, which seems weird to
Mhm.
me because I feel like most kind of smaller indie games like this don't get a quote-unquote DLC pack, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about this. So it's called Fox Tales. It
Hmm.
actually comes out pretty much next week on July 28th.
Oh,
And
seriously?
it's
I don't know.
like this month still. So and it's basically just kind of another story set in that same universe. And this one takes place during springtime, but it looks like you're still the little girl and the fox just kind of walking through Alaska, which I'm totally cool with.
I hope they have documentaries. I didn't see any documentaries in that trailer.
I forgot. That was your. Did you even finish the game, or did you just watch the
I
documentary?
just watched the documentaries and I got bored of the game. I didn't like this game very much. I understand. I should have liked it. I don't know. It just didn't click with me.
Yeah.
I just really liked the documentaries. I thought it was a good documentary series with like kind of an annoying way to have to unlock a documentary series. It's
Jeez.
not annoying. That's a lot. That's really cruel. That's mean. But there's a lot of heart in that game. It just didn't really click with me. I think that's what it was. So I would be more excited about this if they're like, oh, and with brand new documentaries where they talk about springtime in this culture. Like that would be cool. But I didn't see a
Mention of
single
that.
tribes person being interviewed. So I'm a little hesitant.
In the minute and 10-second trailer or so, or whatever.
But I think that was a major part of that game. Like to me, that to me was what made that game special was that these really well done documentaries that are way better done than like any normal indie game has any right to be.
Yeah.
But I just didn't
I'll
see
agree
that.
with that. I think that was definitely kind of a selling point for the game. But to me, I enjoyed that game, and it was. I mean, going back to what we saw before, or what we were talking about before, it is kind of one of those games where there's long stretches where there's not much to do, and that kind of elevated the point where there was something to do, and just kind of really helped sell that point. So
See, that's where I got lost in that one because I thought that's where I got bored. That's that weird balance you have to make, and that's why we were talking earlier. Devs don't really like to do that.
yeah, but I'm excited for it. I don't know. I don't think there was a price announced with it. My guess would be probably $10. That seems to be kind
Yeah.
of the going rate. But yeah, I'm excited for that. So
Are you
hopefully,
gonna buy that day one?
I don't
I'm
know.
finding money leaves my pocket real quick if it's $10. Like,
Yeah, if it was $5, it'd be instantly.
yeah.
But I don't know, like $5 and under is pretty much my screw it number. Once it gets more than $5, there's like at least a little bit of thought put into it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I'm sure I'll get it at some point. I don't know if it'll be day one or I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So that was the news for the week. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud, or whichever one you prefer. Hope you guys enjoyed that. See you again next time.